There is something powerful about becoming unforgettable. Not loud, not desperate, not overwhelming, just unforgettable. The kind of presence that lingers long after the moment has passed. The kind of energy that plays in someone's thoughts when everything else has quieted down. That's what we're going to talk about today. In a world saturated with noise, the art of staying in someone's thoughts is subtle. It's not about tricks, it's not about playing games. It's about mastering the parts of yourself that quietly echo through someone else's memory. Stoicism teaches us not to chase validation. And yet, paradoxically, when you live in alignment with your deeper self, others naturally feel drawn in. They feel your gravity. They remember. This is not about manipulation. It's about attraction through character. You will not need to shout to be noticed. You will not need to beg to be remembered. You'll simply exist in a way that makes forgetting impossible. If you're ready to step into that kind of presence, that calm, magnetic force, then stay with me. And if you find value in this journey we're about to take, show your support with a like. Subscribe for more reflections that shape both the self and the soul. And as we go, leave your thoughts in the comments below. They matter. Your voice belongs here. Now, let's begin where it all starts. Curiosity. Chapter 1. Keep them curious. Curiosity is the ember that keeps the fire alive. You don't need to be mysterious to the point of being distant, nor confusing just to seem complex. But you do need to resist the urge to give away everything too quickly. The mind naturally latches onto puzzles, not completed equations. People don't replay the scenes they understand completely. They replay the ones that left them wondering. What was that glance about? Why did their voice pause there? Was that confidence or calm detachment? These are the echoes that keep someone circling back to thoughts of you long after the moment has passed. Keeping someone curious isn't about deception. It's about depth. When you live with layers, with convictions, with passions that aren't always worn on your sleeve, others instinctively sense there's more to discover, more to feel, more to understand. Think of your own mind. What stays with you? It's not the person who floods you with facts about themselves in the first conversation. It's the one who reveals a little, listens deeply, and leaves you sensing that their world is rich, but not fully revealed. That they are open yet self-contained. That there is a tension between presence and privacy. That's magnetic. One of the quickest ways to become forgettable is to try to be predictable. When every opinion, every behavior, every response becomes obvious, the mind no longer finds reason to engage. But when someone has patterns rooted in values yet not entirely readable, they're captivating. They make people wonder, what are they really thinking? That wondering keeps your image alive in their mind. Curiosity also thrives when you resist over-explaining yourself. Not everyone deserves your story. Not everyone needs to know why you said what you said or did what you did. Let your actions speak. Let your pauses carry weight. Let your silences leave room for interpretation. Sometimes, a simple smile with held eye contact says more than any clever sentence. A gentle laugh at the right time, a soft nod, a curious glance. These small acts carve themselves into memory more than trying to impress with grand gestures. The quieter your self-assurance, the louder it resonates. But here's the part that most people miss. To keep someone curious, you must also remain curious yourself. About life, about people, about the things you haven't yet mastered. A curious soul is alive, always growing, always evolving, and that makes you harder to pin down, harder to define, harder to forget. If you always know what you're doing, always need to control the image you project, then you're not being real. You're being rehearsed. And people sense that. But when you live with questions, sincere, thoughtful ones, you pull others into your orbit. They don't just want to know what you think. They want to know what you feel, what you fear, what you wonder. Let's talk briefly about restraint. There's something profoundly attractive about someone who doesn't take every opportunity to talk about themselves. Someone who listens with intent, who smiles but doesn't chase, who compliments with sincerity but not frequency. In restraint there is power, and in power there is allure. People remember how you made them feel, especially when you made them feel like there was something more just beyond reach. Like the surface wasn't all there was, that there was something deeper and that they were lucky just to catch a glimpse. Now, let's not confuse depth with distance. You don't need to be aloof. Stoicism isn't about building walls. It's about owning your energy, share warmth, offer presence, but always leave something for later. Always leave a little for the next encounter, the next moment, that's what keeps people reaching for more. If you've ever had someone linger in your thoughts for no obvious reason, reflect on what it was about them. Chances are they revealed something real, but not everything. And that balance of openness and enigma left an imprint. So if you want to stay in their thoughts, if you want your presence to echo long after the words have ended, start by being someone who is not so easily solved. And now, let me ask you something that will shape this entire journey. Who was the last person that stayed on your mind longer than expected, and why? Tell me in the comments below. Let's reflect on the power of presence together. Chapter 2. Read their signals. Staying in someone's thoughts isn't just about what you do. It's also about what you see. Because when someone feels deeply understood, not just heard, not just acknowledged, but truly read, you become unforgettable. You're no longer just another face in the crowd. You become someone who speaks the unspoken, who notices the subtle, who reflects back what they didn't even know they were revealing. Reading someone's signals is not about decoding every movement with surgical precision. It's about cultivating awareness. It's about tuning your senses, not just your ears, but your eyes, your presence, your emotional intuition. And most importantly, it's about doing it with care, not judgment. People speak volumes in silence. They reveal themselves in pauses, in glances, in shifts of energy. When you become someone who notices, you make others feel seen. And that is a rare gift. The truth is, most people walk through life feeling somewhat invisible. When you become the person who breaks that spell, they remember you, not out of obligation, but out of reverence. Notice how they speak when they're comfortable, and how that changes when something unsettles them. Observe what topics light them up, and which ones dim their eyes. Pay attention to how they shift when they talk about their dreams, their regrets, their doubts. These are not just passing moments, they are openings into someone's soul. Reading their signals doesn't mean interrogating them. It means allowing space for them to reveal themselves. Sometimes that means leaving silence untouched. Sometimes it means mirroring their tone, or meeting them where they are, instead of trying to pull them into your frame. When someone feels like they don't need to explain everything to you, when you just get it, they relax. They associate you with safety. And in the emotional economy of memory, safety is priceless. But here's the Stoic truth. To truly read others, you must first quiet yourself. Not silence your voice, but silence your need to dominate the moment. Let go of the compulsion to be the most interesting person in the room. Instead, be interested, at your ego, step back and allow your curiosity to take the lead. The more you refine this awareness, the more you realize that most people aren't used to being observed with such intention. They're used to being talked over, misread, or ignored. When you break that pattern, you plant something powerful in their memory, the sensation of being felt. And people don't forget how you made them feel. Even in casual interactions, your attentiveness can leave a lasting imprint. A well-timed comment that shows you noticed something about them. A reaction, a hesitation, a quiet joy creates a spark. It sends a signal of its own. I see you. But don't use this skill manipulatively. Don't use it to gain advantage or to impress. That energy can be felt, and it creates unease. Instead, let it come from grounded presence, from respect, from the genuine desire to connect, not control. Here's something else most overlook. Not all signals are meant to be chased. Some are simply there for you to recognize, and then respect from a distance. Wisdom lies not just in observation, but in knowing when to step forward and when to hold your ground. That discernment earns deep respect. Now ask yourself, who do you remember most clearly, and why? Chances are, it's not the loudest person. It's not the one who tried the hardest to impress you. It's the one who noticed, the one who made you feel seen. Be that person for someone else, and they will carry your presence with them, quietly, but constantly. Have you ever had someone read you better than you expected? Someone who saw through the surface without making you feel exposed? If so, tell us in the comments. We're listening. Chapter 3. Act with boldness. To stay in someone's thoughts. You cannot always whisper in the background of life. Sometimes you must act in a way that stirs the air around you. You must choose boldness, not recklessness, not arrogance, not noise for the sake of noise, but boldness, that quiet, unshakable courage to move with clarity, even when the room hesitates. Boldness leaves a mark. It imprints itself in memory, not because it demands attention, but because it deserves it. There's something unforgettable about someone who moves forward when others stall, who speaks with sincerity when others dance around the truth, who takes that first step when fear is whispering retreat. And here's the truth few will tell you. Most people admire what they cannot do. They remember what they wish they had the strength to embody. And when you act boldly, with integrity, with calm, with certainty, you offer a glimpse of something rare. You offer a model of possibility. But boldness must be forged in fire. It cannot be faked. If your actions are driven by validation or by a need to impress, they will crack under pressure. Real boldness is built in silence. It's built when no one is watching. It's built in the small decisions you make, to face discomfort, to tell the truth, to walk away from what insults your spirit. When those small acts become your rhythm, the larger ones follow naturally. Consider the person who speaks up when silence would be easier. Not to dominate, but to illuminate. That kind of voice stays in the mind. Not because it was loud, but because it was brave. Or think of the one who reaches out when something feels unfinished. Not to chase, but to close the loop. That kind of energy lingers. It shows self-respect. It signals completion. It creates space for memory to breathe. Boldness is also in refusal. In the ability to say no, clearly, kindly, firmly. When you set boundaries with grace, you become unforgettable. People may not like it at first, but they remember it, They remember the feeling of encountering someone who values themselves enough not to bend. There's boldness in restraint, too. In walking away from a dynamic that drains you. In not replying to every message. In not proving your worth when it's already self-evident. The boldest move is often to do less, and do it with absolute presence. And boldness, above all, requires risk. The risk of being misunderstood. The risk of not being received the way you hoped. But Stoicism reminds us that the outcome is not ours to control. Only the action, only the alignment, only the courage to step forward and live what we believe. In relationships, boldness is deeply attractive. It's the energy that says, I know what I want, and I'm not afraid to stand in it. Whether that means expressing affection, stating intentions, or walking away when your standards are not met. That kind of clarity burns a hole in the fabric of memory. It's unforgettable because it's rare. If you have been living in hesitation, waiting for the perfect moment, the right response, the clear sign, this is your reminder that nothing changes until you act. Waiting is easy. Acting is rare. But it's the rare ones who get remembered. Now pause. Think. When was the last time you saw someone act with real boldness? Not showmanship. Not self-promotion. But sincere, calm, aligned courage. Did it stay with you? If it did, tell us below. Share a time when someone's bold action lingered in your mind. Let's celebrate the moments that left us changed. Chapter 4. See their viewpoint. The deepest mark you can leave on someone is not through proving yourself, but through understanding them. Not surface-level validation, but real, soul-deep empathy. When you truly see someone's viewpoint, not just through the lens of logic, but through their emotional experience, you become unforgettable. Why? Because feeling understood is rare. Most people feel like they're speaking through glass, like their words hit the surface, but never sink. When you show that you not only heard them, but felt what they meant, even if you disagree, you become a presence that lingers. Seeing their viewpoint doesn't mean surrendering your own. It means holding space for both. It means recognizing that beneath every word is a story, a childhood, a fear, a desire, a longing. Most people do not react to the present moment. They react to the past. It reminds them of, and when you see through that lens, you shift from reacting to relating. In relationships, we often focus too much on being understood. We craft arguments, make points, clarify, defend. But the real power comes when you pause and try to understand first. When you step into their shoes not to judge, but to experience. When you listen not to answer, but to feel. Think of the last time someone really tried to see your perspective. Not to fix you, not to change your mind, but to understand. That feeling is like shelter in a storm. That person, whoever they were, lives in your memory not because they said the perfect thing, but because they felt like home for a moment. Seeing someone's viewpoint is not about agreement. It's about acknowledgement. It's about saying, I may not see it the way you do, but I understand how you got there. That sentence alone has healed more conflict than 1,000 apologies. Stoicism teaches us emotional discipline. Yes, but not emotional coldness. To remain unmoved by chaos does not mean being detached from humanity. It means staying rooted while reaching out. And part of that reach is empathy, not weakness. Strength of the highest form. When you look someone in the eye and offer understanding, you make them feel safe. And people do not forget where they feel safe. They carry that memory in the folds of their mind. Sometimes without even realizing it, it becomes a place they return to when the world gets loud. You want to stay in someone's thoughts. Make them feel deeply understood, not just once, but consistently. Be the one who remembers what matters to them. The one who doesn't laugh off their quiet worries. The one who catches what others miss. And yes, it takes effort. It takes slowing down. It takes asking real questions. It takes noticing the difference between I'm fine and I'm not fine. But I don't know how to ask for support. But that effort is what makes you unforgettable. Because most people are too busy performing, too busy reacting, too busy waiting for their turn to talk. When you choose presence over performance, you create intimacy, and intimacy is memory's anchor. So I invite you, think of someone whose perspective challenged you, stretched you, maybe even frustrated you, but left an imprint. What did it teach you? And how did that change how you see others? If you feel moved, share that in the comments. These stories remind us that we all carry layers, and that being understood, truly understood, is one of the rarest gifts we can give. Chapter 5. Focus beyond yourself. There is something uniquely magnetic about someone who is not always centered on themselves. A person whose gaze looks outward, not out of avoidance, but out of genuine presence. In a culture obsessed with image, those who focus beyond themselves become rare, and in their rarity, they become unforgettable. Let me be clear, this isn't about self-neglect. It's about self-containment. When you know who you are, you no longer need to constantly announce it. You're not obsessed with curating your every move for approval. You live, you serve, you grow, and because of that, your presence feels refreshing. People don't want to be around a spotlight. They want to be around a mirror, someone who reflects their value, their voice, their humanity. And that's what happens when you shift focus from self-promotion to shared presence. When your conversations are not always punctuated by me and I. When you ask real questions and let them unfold without rushing to relate it back to your story, you become different. You stand out in a world of interruptions. You become the rare listener who makes others feel interesting. And people remember those who made them feel seen. But there's more. Focusing beyond yourself also means engaging with the world on a wider level. It means being connected to purpose, to community, to something larger than your personal gratification. When people sense that your life is not just about chasing approval but about contribution, they instinctively respect you. You become less about validation and more about vision. Imagine two individuals. One is always centering every moment around their story. The other listens deeply, speaks thoughtfully, and carries a quiet confidence that isn't performative. Who stays in your mind? Self-focus creates friction. Other focus creates flow. There's also grace in shifting the spotlight. When someone is struggling, you don't center their pain around your reaction. You offer space. You witness. You support. That emotional maturity makes you unforgettable because most people haven't received that kind of grace. And here's the paradox. The more you focus beyond yourself, the more deeply others focus on you. Why? Because their ego feels safe. Because they don't feel competed with. Because your presence allows their essence to breathe. And when people breathe around you, they attach. Stoicism teaches us to master the self, but not to obsess over it. To improve our inner world, not so we can shine brighter than others, but so we can illuminate others. That distinction matters. It's the line between narcissism and nobility. So how do you practice this? Start By listening more than you speak. Ask better questions. Stop worrying about how you're being perceived, and focus instead on what someone else might need to feel heard. Watch how the energy shifts. Let people talk about their passions. Let them lead sometimes. Support others' ideas without needing to add your own spin. And when the moment is right, bring your full self into the conversation. Not to dominate, but to contribute. This isn't martyrdom. This is mastery. Now reflect. When has someone's humility left a mark on you? When has someone's other focus created space for you to feel more alive? If you felt that, share it. Let's remind each other that greatness does not always shout. Sometimes it listens. Chapter 6. Value their essence. To linger in someone's thoughts, you must go beyond seeing their surface. You must value their essence. Not the version of them that's polished for the world. Not the traits that win applause, but the soft truths underneath it all. The parts they don't parade, the parts they protect. That is where connection lives. That is where memory is carved. When someone feels that you cherish who they are at their core, not for what they give you, not for how they fit into your vision, but for the very uniqueness of their being, it changes them. It breaks through their walls. And once someone has felt that kind of recognition, they remember you, even if they try not to. Even if life pulls you apart. Now, valuing someone's essence means letting go of your script, of how you think they should be, of the roles you expect them to play. It means meeting them where they are, with grace, not judgment. It means honoring the full spectrum of who they are, even the contradictions, even the mess, because the essence of a person is never tidy. We live in a world obsessed with appearance, with status, labels, roles, output, but none of those things make someone unforgettable. What stays with you is how someone made you feel in your most honest moments. It's whether they accepted you when you weren't performing. It's whether their presence said you don't need to try so hard. I already see you. When you can give that, when your energy says you are enough as you are, people relax around you. They open, they soften. And once that softness is associated with you, you become a place in their memory, a sanctuary, a home. They revisit in thought, even years later. This is not about idolizing someone. It's about witnessing them, about seeing beyond their behavior into their intent, beyond their words into their wounds, beyond their story into their soul. That's a rare form of attention, and it's why Stoicism teaches us to look beyond impressions, to seek truth, not just image. But let's be clear. Valuing someone's essence is not the same as tolerating what hurts you. You can love who someone is while setting clear lines about what you accept. You can say, I see your light, but I will not stand in your storm. And sometimes that boundary itself deepens the respect, because it says I care about the real you, but I also care about me. The power of seeing someone deeply and valuing them anyway is not just transformative for them. It transforms you. It softens your defenses. It anchors you in compassion. And that presence, that energy is felt. You become someone people think about when they wish the world were gentler. You become someone who made them feel real. So ask yourself, when was the last time you felt seen, not for your performance, but for your presence? Who looked past the noise and noticed your soul? Who stayed in your thoughts long after, because they touched something unspoken? Share that story in the comments, not just for yourself, but because your story might help someone else remember their own. Chapter 7. Stay playfully elusive. There is a delicate art to leaving a trace without leaving a trail, to being fully present, but never entirely possessed. This is the power of being playfully elusive, not distant, not unavailable, but just lightly out of reach, like a melody that catches the ear, but never quite resolves, like a thought that circles back when the room is quiet. To stay in someone's thoughts, you must not make yourself overly available. When you're too constant, too predictable, too ever-present, your presence loses weight. The human mind tunes out what it believes it has fully captured. But what remains slightly undefined, that stays, that lingers. Being elusive does not mean playing games. That kind of manipulation wears thin. What I'm speaking of is something far subtler. The kind of self-possession that doesn't need to explain itself. The kind of allure that comes from having a life, a rich, real, meaningful life, that no one else fully owns. Playfulness is key. This is not about coldness. It's about dancing on the edge of knowing and not knowing. It's about a smile that makes someone wonder what you're thinking. A reply that arrives on its own time, not out of obligation but out of rhythm. A depth that opens slowly, like the unfolding of a page, not dumped out all at once. When you're playfully elusive, your energy says, "You may enjoy my presence, but you will never own it. You may share moments with me, but I am not defined by your attention. I belong first to myself." That energy, when carried with warmth, is intoxicating. Stoicism teaches us detachment, not indifference, but freedom. You apply that here. You share yourself with care. You let people in, but not all the way, all at once. You give enough to connect, but not enough to collapse into them. That balance is what creates tension, and tension is the heartbeat of intrigue. There is also great strength in being okay with space. Not using silence as punishment, but as presence, as confidence. When you can allow distance without panic, you signal maturity. You say with your silence, "I do not need to grasp to be remembered. My energy speaks when I am not there." Playful elusiveness is felt most in the rhythm of interaction. Sometimes you're bright and warm, sometimes you're calm and observing. You don't withhold to provoke, you flow with authenticity. And because you're not performing, your presence feels honest, yet never static. When you disappear briefly, not out of anger but out of fullness, it gives others room to feel your absence. And in that absence, they reflect, they miss, they wonder. You don't force their thoughts to return to you, you invite them through the space you've left. That's why artists often say that silence is as important as sound. The same is true in connection. Your pauses matter. Your retreats matter. They create the rhythm that makes your presence sing. Let me ask you this. Who do you think about most often? Is it the one who floods your phone? Or is it the one who shows up with meaning, disappears with mystery, and returns with new depth? If you've ever had someone live in your mind, not because they were constantly there, but because their absence made you ache a little, share that below. What was it about them? Your comment may echo in someone else's memory too. Chapter 8. Build trust deeply. There is no substitute for trust. No charm, no wit, no technique can take its place. And if you want to live in someone's thoughts, not just briefly, but enduringly, you must be someone they trust. Trust builds a bridge across silence. It lets your absence be felt with warmth, not doubt. It's what transforms connection into memory. But trust is not about perfection. It's not about being flawless or always saying the right thing. It's about consistency, integrity, alignment between what you say and what you do. When your words and actions reflect the same core, people relax around you. They begin to believe in you, and belief is the seed of memory. Stoicism teaches us to live by principles. That is the foundation of trust. When someone senses that your behavior is not swayed by moods or manipulation, but grounded in something deeper, they know where they stand with you. And in a world full of shifting masks, that stability is magnetic. Building trust also means revealing your humanness, not your weakness, but your truth. When you own your flaws with calm, when you admit what you don't know, when you apologize without ego, you invite others to do the same, and shared vulnerability is what cements memory. We remember those with whom we were real, those who saw us in moments of doubt and didn't flinch, those who gave us the safety to take off the armor and didn't use it against us. To be trustworthy, you must also hold space for others' truths. You must respect their pace, their process, their boundaries. Trust isn't built by pressure. It's built by presence, by showing up when it matters, by being where you said you would be, by remembering what they shared, not for leverage, but for care. And yes, trust is fragile. It takes time to earn and moments to lose. But that's exactly why it's so powerful. Because once it's felt, it's remembered. Even if paths diverge, people recall who they could count on. Trust also means not pretending. If you don't know how you feel, say so. If you need space, take it with honesty. If something feels off, speak with respect. That kind of clarity may not always be comfortable, but it is clean, and clean energy is hard to forget. Be the person who doesn't gossip, who doesn't share what was told in confidence, who doesn't seek advantage in others' uncertainty. That kind of character echoes. People may not say it out loud, but they feel it, and they carry it with them. So, who is the person you trusted when it was hardest to trust? The one who proved, not with words, but with presence, that they were safe. If one comes to mind, I invite you to honor them in the comments. Let their name, or even just their essence, be spoken again. They deserve to be remembered. Chapter 9. Unleash your spirit. If you want to stay in their thoughts, not just for a moment, but for years, you must let them feel your spirit. Not just your surface, not just your curated image, but the deep, authentic rhythm of your being. The part of you that isn't calculated or rehearsed. The part of you that lives. People forget perfection. They forget flawless conversations and well-timed jokes. But they never forget aliveness. That glimmer of raw presence. That spark that breaks through the mundane and says, "This person is awake inside." Your spirit is not your ego. It's not your resume or your role. It's the quiet passion that flows through you when you're connected to something meaningful. It's the way your eyes light up when you speak from truth. It's how you move when you stop trying to be impressive and start being free. Unleashing your spirit means not holding back your essence just to fit into someone's comfort zone. It means laughing when the moment calls for it, even if no one else is laughing yet. It means saying what you mean with calm boldness. It means letting people feel your convictions, not in a preachy way, but in a grounded, magnetic way. There's nothing more forgettable than someone who molds themselves to what they think others want, but someone who shows up in full, without apology, without pretense. That person lives in memory. When you unleash your spirit, you become hard to define, and the mind cannot stop, circling what it cannot fully categorize. This doesn't mean being chaotic. It means being richly human, layered, alive, someone whose presence feels like a breeze through a still room. Something shifts when you're around, and they remember that shift. Your spirit is your originality, your essence, not forced uniqueness, but the flavor that naturally emerges when you stop filtering yourself for mass appeal. Most people hide behind rehearsed identities. The moment you stop doing that, you cut through the noise. Unleashing your spirit also means honoring your creativity. In conversation, in how you show up, in how you express care. It means making people feel something that can't be bought, can't be copied. It means tapping into your intuition and letting it shape the way you move through connection. Because intuition isn't loud, but it's unforgettable. There is a sacred energy in someone who dares to show up fully, especially in relationships. Most people are guarded. They wear masks. They speak in half-truths and safe scripts. When you break that pattern, when you live in full color, people remember you, even if they don't understand why. And yes, this kind of openness makes you vulnerable. But Stoicism teaches us that strength and vulnerability are not opposites. They are allies. You are never stronger than when you can stand fully in who you are, without needing permission. You don't need to perform. You don't need to be loud. You just need to be true. To speak when silence would be safer. To laugh when the moment catches you. To share your strange, your sacred, your spark. That's what haunts people. Not in fear, but in awe. Ask yourself this: when was the last time someone's energy stayed with you? Not because of what they looked like or what they had, but because of how alive they felt. That feeling is rare, but it's real. And you can be that presence for someone else. If you've ever encountered someone whose spirit left a mark, whose authenticity lingered in your bones, share that in the comments. Speak their name or describe their light. Let us remember what realness feels like. Chapter 10. Mirror their strengths. We are drawn to the people who reflect back the best in us, not because they flatter, but because they see. Because they hold up a mirror, not to our flaws but to our potential. If you want to stay in someone's thoughts, be the person who helps them see who they could become. This doesn't mean being overly positive or pretending their weaknesses don't exist. It means anchoring your attention to their strengths, speaking to the part of them that is capable. That is wise. That is becoming. When you reflect someone's power back to them, calmly, sincerely, without expectation, you become unforgettable. Why? Because most people are drowning in critique, in insecurity, in their own doubt. When you stand beside someone and say with your energy, not just your words, "I see you," and you are strong, it cuts through the noise. But here's the key. Mirroring someone's strength starts with seeing your own. When you walk through the world bitter, jealous, or insecure, you'll project that onto others. You'll either compete or shrink. But when you know your worth, quietly, steadily, you can celebrate others without fear. You can recognize greatness without feeling small. That emotional generosity is rare, and rare is remembered. To mirror someone's strength means listening for their light, not just their wounds. It means noticing when they speak with clarity, when they act with courage, when they move with integrity, and letting them know, not in a performative way, not in a look at me for noticing way, but in a simple, grounded way that says, "I saw that. That was powerful." And here's what happens. They begin to see it too. Your reflection becomes part of their self-image. And even if life moves on, even if paths diverge, that image stays. They will remember how they felt in your presence, not small, not confused, not invisible, but stronger. That is one of the deepest gifts we can offer. This also applies in conflict. When tension rises, most people attack. But the Stoic sees beyond the surface. The Stoic says, "Even now, I will look for your strength. Even now, I will speak to the best in you." That kind of grace rewires relationships, and even if the bond breaks, the memory does not. People forget what you said. They forget what you wore, but they do not forget the version of themselves they became around you. If you helped them feel more capable, more brave, more whole, you're not just in their thoughts, you're in their evolution. So consider this. Who has mirrored your strength to you? Who made you believe, even just for a moment, that you were more than your fears? Share their story below. Let their reflection ripple out again. Chapter 11. Own your confidence. There is nothing more powerful or more memorable than calm, quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need to shout. The kind that doesn't seek approval. The kind that simply is. If you want to stay in someone's thoughts, become the one who knows your worth and does not need to prove it. Confidence is not about ego. It is not about domination or bravado. It is the grounded knowing that says, "I am enough, whether you validate me or not." And that kind of energy, in a world addicted to reassurance, stands out like a flame in the dark. Owning your confidence means you move differently. You speak more slowly. You listen more intently. You act with precision. You don't rush to explain or to defend. You don't over-apologize for existing. You simply take up space, not because you demand it, but because your presence naturally fills it. People remember those who are sure of themselves. Not because they boast, but because their certainty creates safety. When you are solid within, others feel less anxious around you. They feel anchored. And when someone feels calm in your presence, they will associate that calm with you, long after you're gone. Confidence is also restraint. The choice to stay silent when others compete. The ability to walk away without drama. The self-respect to not chase what confuses you. When you trust yourself, you don't cling. You don't beg. You don't broadcast your every move for applause. You walk with purpose, and others follow the trail. Stoicism calls us to this. To move with dignity. To act from principle, not impulse, to let go of control, because we know that nothing external can make or break who we are. That belief, truly lied, radiates, and radiance is remembered. Here's the secret most people miss. You don't become confident by thinking your way into it. You become confident by choosing again and again to honor your standards, to live your truth, to take the risk of being fully yourself, even if no one claps. So ask yourself, what would it feel like to stop seeking permission, to walk into a room knowing that you belong, not because they say so, but because you say so? That version of you is unforgettable, because confidence is not loud, but it is unforgettable. If you've ever seen someone own their space in a way that left you inspired, tell us in the comments. Confidence leaves a trail. Let's trace it together. Conclusion. Staying in someone's thoughts is not about tricks. It's not about manipulation or chasing attention. It's about how you live. It's about who you become. and the way that becoming ripples through every moment, every silence, every presence. You don't need to scream to be remembered. You need to stand in your curiosity, your presence, your depth, to move with boldness, to see others and let yourself be seen, to live fully and freely. That is what leaves echoes in the minds of others. Let this be your reminder. The more aligned you are with your truth, the more magnetic you become. Not because you're trying to impress, but because you're impossible to ignore. If this message stirred something in you, support the work by liking the video. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Everlasting Stoic. There are many more journeys ahead, and your presence, your voice, matter. And now, I'd love to hear from you. What part of this message hit you the hardest? What will you take with you not just today, but into your way of being? Let's build this space together. One reflection, one comment, one brave truth at a time. Until next time, stay grounded, stay present, and above all, stay unforgettable.